Try to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Total protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal with your host, Conan Neutron. Broadcasting from a secret underground lair in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
A gigantic middle finger to everything that is rock about music, rock and roll, and corporate power.
Thing is, though, if you don't laugh, you're going to go on a killing spree with sharpened nails.
Confidence of a hero or a fool. I wasn't exactly certain which.
Could not be more professional.
It means something. It means something. You know, that's my take on it. What's yours?
Protonic reversal.
That's like a science thing, right?
Indeed it is. It's a science thing. It's a science place. It's a scientific fact that we're all up in your face. It is time once again for the one, the only Protonic Reversal. Welcome to it. Episode 438 tonight. Yeah, that's right. 438 people. And I'm going to be talking in a few minutes to Mr. Daniel House, Skin Yard, CZ Records, and brand new podcast, The Creative Asylum, which I'm very excited. I'm going to jump him in. We're going to have a secret handshake. It's going to be like a whole podcaster initiation ritual, him coming on this show, I swear. But looking forward to talking all that with him. And that'll be happening very shortly. Before we do any of that, welcome to Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. I'm your host, Conan Neutron, a rock and roll lifer that's been touring and recording for over 25 years. Most known for the band Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends. Music is a huge part of my life, and I use the format of this very long-running podcast to talk about music with musicians whose work I enjoy and respect, but who may not be household names. This is episode 438. Now, if this is your first time listening to the show, archives of it are available for free, no ads, no sponsors, no kidding, at protonicreversal.com. However, if you want to support the show and get episodes sooner, $1 a month at patreon.com/protonicreversal will achieve that goal. Helps keep the lights on in here, too. If you like the show or even just a single episode, please feel free to like, subscribe on your platform of choice, share it around on the internet, even leave a review. All that helps people discover the show. It beats back the almighty algorithmic overlords. This is a darn nice thing to do. So let's see. I'll be talking to Daniel House shortly. I've got some Conan Neutron Secret Friends activity coming up. We're going to be on tour in October, November. October, Minneapolis, Chicago, Minneapolis, Lincoln, Denver, Salt Lake City, Boise, Eugene, Portland, and then Seattle for Rat City Recon. I can do that off the top of my head. Isn't that crazy? In November, we're heading down. We got Kansas City, Jackson, Atlanta, New Orleans, Austin, Denton, Wichita, Santa Fe, and Phoenix. So please come see the band at any of those places. neutronfriends.bandcamp.com, of course, to listen to that music. I will have Protonic Reversal stickers, as I do normally. And maybe next time I'll think of loading up the tour poster instead of just doing it off the top of my head. But hey, you never know what you're going to find here. Daniel House is a legendary band, Skin Yard. Those who know and dig it. CZ Records. A little lesser known, but incredibly important in the indie music world, at least in my book it is. And this guy, he's awesome. He's great. He's had all kinds of lived experience. And he just started a podcast called The Creative Asylum. That's right. If you like this show, chances are you're probably going to like that as well. I'm overjoyed to speak to him. Mr. Daniel House, welcome to the show, man.
How's it going?
How's it going with you? You're banking episodes. You're working harder than I am right now.
I very much doubt that I'm working harder than you are.
Yeah.
Of course, you have it down to a science, and I'm just like still bumbling my way through in the early days. But you know, with each passing day and each conversation, interview, whatever you want to call it, it kind of gets easier.
It gets a little better. It gets a little easier. Sure. And if I don't have it down at like year 11 or whatever, like, what are we doing here?
I'm sitting here listening and watching, to your intro, just kind of going, okay, how do I get to this point?
Yeah.
Like,
honestly,
you make it seem like breathing.
You see, it just becomes something
know?
you just start doing it, and like you
Yeah,
don't even
yeah.
realize you're like, oh, I guess I'm doing the thing, huh? That's
Right.
crazy.
Yeah, well, you're going to be my template for perfection.
Oh well, thank
you
you.
know.
That's very kind of you. Guys. If nothing else, it's a roadmap for what not to do. So interesting move. Now you've done so much cool stuff in rock and roll. You've been a guy that's like a name that even if people don't necessarily know the name, they'll recognize. Oh yeah, that guy, right? Like what I like to call a that guy of rock. As a fellow that guy of rock, I like to call it a that guy of rock situation. And it was interesting to me when you said you were starting a show.
Yeah.
And I'm all for it personally. I'm not one of these people that like looks at other shows like competition or whatever, because I do what I do. There's no one else that can do what I do. Right. That's what makes this show this show.
Yeah.
And there's been plenty of shows that have been started by people that are like super interesting and cool on their own because they did the right thing. They allowed it to grow, to become the thing that was meant to become, to lean into what makes it interesting, so on and so on. And I got to say, man, like just based on what you've told me so far, it sounds like you have more planning put into it than when I started this show. Let's put it that way. How are you enjoying it so far? Because you're getting pretty deep into it at this point, right?
I'm totally digging the process. I knew it was going to be a lot of work, and it's more work than I thought it was going to be.
However much you think it's going to be, double it.
Yeah, basically. But I mean, I don't know, like I've put out records and I've both for my own band and for my label, and all those millions of pieces that all fit together is, it's a similar kind of process, and so I guess in a way it's just, it seems like a natural extension of what I've done so far, except for it costs a hell of a lot less than, running a record label. And I don't have to commit to anybody else the way you have to with a band. So,
right, exactly. No, and there is something, and I agree with that there is something to like the DIY spirit of, hey, again, before nowadays, the getting music into the world is easier than it's ever been, which, I look at like definitely a step forward. Don't get me wrong. But it used to be you had to kind of either find someone that already was doing it or, some real trial and error to learn how to make that happen. And nowadays it's easier. And the same thing is true for podcasting. Like the days of having to go to Fry's Electronics, no longer in business, to go pick up this board that I still broadcast out of. I did change the interface out 2 years ago, finally, by the way. And that kind of thing. You don't have to do that anymore. I think that's lovely. I think that's a good use of this technology that's not, radicalizing grandma and making everyone feel isolated and alone.
Yeah.
But what I find so interesting about your creative asylum pitch is that you have a really strong feeling of what the show should be. And that's great. And that's usually what people are missing. People usually worry about the technological elements. Like, don't worry about that. Right. Make sure you have something to say first.
Well, if you don't have some reason for people to give a shit, then why should they give a shit? Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So from the very start to launch, which depending on when people are engaging with either is already happening or is happening very soon. What's been the hardest lessons you think you've had to learn for?
Haven't really been any that hard of lessons, but I forget, like I'm pretty proficient when it comes to technology and this kind of stuff, and a lot of people are not. And, in a lot of cases I've had to kind of walk people through it, sometimes ahead of time, sometimes literally when we're logged in, I'm like, no, remember that thing I sent you? Yeah, you need to download that, or you need to do this, or, but we make it work in the end. I mean, I won't name names, but there was one interview where, the person being interviewed specifically uses Linux. Not PC.
Sure.
And Riverside.
And constitutionally, you have to announce that you use Linux if you use Linux. It's
yeah. It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. Yeah. It's kind of like, I think it's kind of like being a vegan. I don't know.
Oh yeah, you have to announce it. It's the
vegans
law.
have to tell you that they're vegan. It's like, okay, that's fine.
It's in the Constitution.
So the thing is like Riverside theoretically is not supposed to work on Linux. And then he was using a browser that is specific to Linux. I'm like, I know that won't work. You have to download this. And he was just like, he's like, Riverside hates Linux. I'm like, I don't think they hate Linux. I just think it's I think it's 0.5% of the user base, and so they're probably not optimizing their technology for such a tiny fraction. But in the end, the beautiful thing is we made it work.
Yeah, if 1 out of 1,000 people are using it, you're not going to go out of your way to.
Yeah, but we got the recording,
optimize it. Great,
and it was a great conversation. So basically, I'm the first episode is going to launch on September 23rd. We're going to be doing Tuesdays at 10. I just figure that's as good a time as any. And it's, and it has alliteration. So Tuesdays at 10. But
Tuesdays at 10. Yeah, exactly.
Right on.
TTT.
There's each season, so to speak, will be a year. So season 1, 2025, will have 15 episodes between now and the end of the year. And I think I've done 11 or 12 of those episodes so far. And I'm still, editing them and all of that. But, I'm already beginning to line people up for the new year. And I have a feeling, I think the thing I haven't really fully kind of mastered yet is just getting in that kind of rhythm. And I'm sure that rhythm will start to hit,
Yeah, for me, and not that you asked, but
well, but I do. But
actually, you probably did ask, but you didn't ask in this conversation right now.
Yeah.
The idea of doing it live, even though it's more or less live to stream, right? The only people that tune in are people that patronize the show, which isn't to say something condescending. They literally are on the Patreon, and because of that, being live for me makes me be better in the box, like fix it in pre versus fix it in post kind of situation.
Right.
And that's honestly, that's an overcorrection of a show I briefly had with my bandmates at the time that lasted about 1.5 years that will just charitably say required a lot of editing on my part. And I don't want to do that. And which doesn't say that there isn't editing. Sure, there's editing. If there's like a sound issue or somebody says something like litigious or especially salacious and they don't want it in there. Okay, fine, no problem.
Yeah.
But it's live for the people that pay some money for the show, which is early access. And then they get to listen to it on demand for like half a week or so. And then it goes out to the world at large. You don't have to pay for it.
And the one that goes out to the world at large, that one's been edited down from the live version that goes on Patreon?
Sometimes.
No, not necessarily. Maybe.
Not necessarily. I said, I try to get in the box,
Okay.
Like it's something where that's my specific aesthetic. It is not the aesthetic of most shows.
Right.
Honestly, there's some shows I wish had stronger editing, frankly, but me, I'm delightful. So no problem.
Exactly. Precisely.
But that said, there's plenty of ways to do it. And you're entering a world that, there's certain things that, it's a mattresses.com ad. It's like there are these things that everybody thinks of like and associates with podcasts, and for better or for worse. And there's like, you don't have to do any of those things if you don't want to, but it's something where it is kind of a weird secret language that, as far as I know, there isn't like a get together. If there is, I'm not invited to it. Of people that do this kind of thing. So it's interesting to me that I always think about when someone's starting their show, like, well, how do you find out about it? How do you find out about how you do these things or whatever? How
do I find out about how to make the show?
How does anyone find out about it? But then what was your path into it? And being a little more technologically astute maybe than some people, that's going to help a little bit, right? But I wouldn't even know if someone's starting now. Like, how do you even start? I don't know. Look up how to start podcast. Enter.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And what it does, it takes you to YouTube, and then there's like 14 different rabbit holes you can go down. And 2 months later, you realize you watched 57 hours of videos on producing.
It's just EQ settings. Yeah.
And you discover that in certain areas you become kind of a minor expert,
Sure.
And I watched a whole lot of videos on this, that, and the other, and I kind of, glommed on the stuff that made sense, and, lots of tips and tricks and like, what are good mics? And, there's videos on like how to do a podcast for under $500, So for instance, like I'm talking to you and my camera is my iPhone, right?
There you go. Yeah,
which I already had my camera in my pocket, and then I use the rear camera, and I use a free piece of software that's on my phone and on my laptop, and now I have a webcam, and it's 4K. And
we carry these around in our pockets, and they
it's
can shoot video that's you could like screen in a movie theater.
People
you know?
make movies on iPhones these
They
days.
really do,
Like
yeah.
it's wild. So I don't know, I mean, without social media, without YouTube, I'm sure I wouldn't be doing this. But I've been, the thing is, I've been thinking about doing this for like probably 7-8 years. It's just, I always have 14, 15 different like ideas swirling around in my head.
Yeah.
And every once in a while I grab one after I'm tired of it, flitting about. And that's kind of what this was, So the whole idea of it started with when I started writing the book, which hopefully will get published one of these years, the Skinyard Oral History book I've been working on for about 8 years. And it was kind of that process of interviewing people for the book.
Yeah, sure.
And then in this case, audio, and then I would transcribe the audio. And at this point, I was already listening to a handful of podcasts anyway. And what I discovered is, or maybe I already knew, I don't know. I enjoy in-depth conversations with interesting, creative weirdos, basically, right? Like what we're doing right now.
Yeah, hard relatable. Yeah.
And so it's not a difficult jump to make, to kind of go, oh, that thing you really like doing anyway with like a bunch of your favorite, like intensely smart, weird friends.
Yeah.
Creative, because most of my friends are probably creative people in one regard or another. And so I'm just like, well, this is the kind of thing I like to talk about anyway. It's the kind of thing I like to surround myself with. For me, I've always been very intentionally trying to live a life that I refer to as a creative life. Whatever that might mean for you might be something different for me, but I don't want to live a bland and boring life.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. That's the idea, that social media has elevated mundane activities to be at the same level as massive works of creative genius.
Right.
And I don't agree with that at all.
No,
and I think it's actually damaging to culture. And it's made everybody think that they're a temporarily embarrassed superstar, basically. Right. And I think that's, I think we're going to see psychosis on a level of which we're barely aware of over the course of generations.
We're already seeing it.
Yeah, if not already.
I mean,
exactly.
I mean, if you want to talk about politics, which we can avoid, but you want to talk about psychosis, like, dude,
it's not good.
No,
it's not good, folks.
It's quite horrible.
So, and I think, in the last thing on this, because I think your show speaks for itself, and I like I said, I feel like if people enjoy this show, they absolutely should check out Creative Asylum and subscribe and all that good stuff. But one of my impetuses for starting the show is I just wanted to make the kind of show I wanted to hear.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
And here I am, still doing it.
Right,
all these years later, it's like, yeah.
And you love doing it, and that's the key too.
If I didn't enjoy doing it, I wouldn't do it.
Right. And that's kind of what I figure, I'm going to, at some point along the way, I'm going to like put a little marker in the sand and go, okay, when I get to that point, I'm going to just kind of look at what I've done so far. I'm going to reassess and ask myself, do you want to keep going?
Right.
And I'll either go, no, I'm done. Or I'll be like, this is great. So we'll see.
And it's okay not to know the answer to that question.
Of course.
And it's okay to know that it may not, as good as it may be, it may not be there immediately. That's the thing. These are the lessons I try to impart when people ask. It's like, no, don't be kind to yourself to not have it all figured out. Even if you think you've got it all figured out, you probably don't.
No.
And you need to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And I think if you can, in some of that comes from nervousness, ego, take of that what you will. But it is interesting how much more pressure is put on people when they start shows now.
In what way? Like
just being like this push towards like, if something isn't successful instantly, then it's a failure. Like this,
like you've been live for 3 months and you don't have 10,000 followers.
Yeah. Oh, I don't have this arbitrary metric. Right. Dude, I hit 1 million listens. I didn't even notice. I was like, oh, I guess I did that like a year and a half ago. Whoops.
That's a lot though. It's a lot.
It's a lot of earballs.
Yeah.
But earballs, nice. But the thing about, for me in the show, is that I was in a position where it's not like I was saying I don't care, and it's not that I don't care, but it's the fact that
it's not the driving force.
It's not the driving force. It's the work. The work is what is important. It's a catalog. It's a catalog of talks a lot of times with people that don't really get the chance to ever go into deep dives into their music and their art. And I try to treat every episode very seriously.
And you interview specifically musicians only, is that correct?
Yeah. I've stretched that a little bit here and there, but not
Okay.
often. It's generally musicians.
Right. And see, I'm starting, with a heavy leaning on musicians, but I definitely want to expand outside of
Sure.
what I consider to be a limitation. And I figure there's a lot of podcasts that are already doing this and probably doing it better. Current company very much included in that statement. Like and it's great. I can listen to one of your podcasts and go, oh, that's cool. And oh shit, I forgot about that person. Oh my God, I have to check out this band. Like I was just listening to John Fine. I'm like, I don't think I knew about his new band.
It's great. It's
yeah,
really
I can't wait. I can't wait.
And
I haven't gone there yet, but I'm going to.
It's really good.
Pretty sure I'm going to love it.
Well, and what I say too, and sometimes there'll be people that are just doing the circuit, right? They're doing they got something new to promote, so
right.
All right, so so and so's on this show, and so's on this other show, and whatever. Some of them are even shows I like.
Yeah,
and then I do enjoy sometimes, like especially if after I do my episode, I would never listen to someone else's episode until I do mine. But it's like, oh, cool, sense. Their conversation went somewhere completely different. They talked about something. Totally. And in a few cases, I'll be like, "Oh wow, I didn't even think about that." Oh great, that's awesome. There's something beautiful about that. It's like, it's like when you're making records in a band that is part of a scene or something, right? It's the same sort of principle. Which we are going to talk about your music, by the way, by the Doves. But
you say by the Doves?
By the Doves, indeed.
I wasn't in the Doves. Okay, never mind. Please continue.
Woof. Okay. So
I'm old, so I get to tell dad jokes.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
You've heard the show. You know what it's like. So Skinny Art starts like what, 85 or something, right?
Yes, correct.
It's you and Jack to start with.
Yep.
Tell me how it all came together. And was that your first band, or was that the first band that kind of really did a lot of stuff?
It was not my first band. So we can go back a couple of years before. My first band was a little outfit called Death of Marat, after the painting, if you know it.
I do know that one.
We were super arty and probably super spazzy, and we're one of those bands that had great ambitions in terms of what we wanted to do musically, and did not have the skill or capacity to really execute any of it. So it just came off as this like really weird, spazzy. Like we took ourselves way too seriously and probably ended up sounding accidentally more like the Residents or something.
Sure, yeah. Which nothing wrong with that, but probably not what you were going for either.
Not what we were going for. Yeah. No. So whatever.
Like we're naming our band after this Jacobin that maybe you don't. Don't know,
So that band, I mean, they continued after I left. I felt that I had outgrown the band, and I was kind of frustrated with just, I don't know. It was a bunch of young people, like between the ages of 20 and 22, with different ideas and different influences, and a good first experience. But after that would have been 1982 or 3, I think. After that, I was actually in 2 different bands at the same time. So one was this band called Feedback.
Oh, is that with Matt Cameron, right?
With Matt Cameron. That's my first band with Matt Cameron. It's me and Matt and a guy who called himself Nerm. And
that was a self-applied nickname, or
was that a self-applied nickname? Yeah. Okay. He was an odd guy, but he was a very odd and interesting guitar player, guitar synth. So try to picture like a band that's kind of math rocky before the term math rock existed.
Sure.
We used to get accused of being prog, which I always hated, even though I don't think prog is a dirty word. It's not exactly what we were really doing. But whatever, fine, okay, cool. We're all instrumental.
Particularly loaded term in like 84 or so. I mean, it was like,
yes. Boom. And instrumental, so you're either jazz or prog, right? We definitely weren't jazz.
Sure.
But and then we had Matt on drums, who was very much kind of a jazzy player at that point.
Yeah,
especially. Right. And we could not get a meaningful gig to save our lives. But I think we were around for maybe 9 months. We did record an album's worth of material, which Jack and Dino did later remix from the original Tascam. What is it? The X250. That cassette deck with it. It does side A, it's a 4-track. Anyway,
I literally have one about 20 feet that way. Yes.
Do you? Nice.
Yes.
Okay. So we recorded a
record.
Does
it work? I don't know.
we did release it digitally. I don't know how many years ago.
Yeah, well, it was like about 10 years ago or something, I think. Right?
Something like that. Yeah,
I vaguely remember that. Yeah,
something like that. And then at the same time, I was in this other band called 10 Minute Warning, which was the band that Duff McKagan had left the year before. And 10 Minute Warning were kind of one of the first bands in Seattle, really, that were kind of doing that thing aesthetically that the city later became known for. You know, maybe a little more of a punk influence, but, you know, a lot of Stooges, a lot of Heartbreakers, maybe a tiny bit of Doors with our front man, throwing some William Blake in there, little bit of I don't know, Velvet Underground with Nico. We did a Pink Floyd cover from one of the very first two records, and made it really heavy and even more psychedelic.
Sure.
Great band. They were actually my favorite band in Seattle before Duff and the then bass player David Griggs left. And I was like, why would you leave the best band in Seattle? Anyway, I was friends with the singer Steve and the bass player David. We were all going to Seattle Central Community College at the time. And I somehow talked them into bringing me in for a tryout for the band. And I never left. And we also recorded a record that same year that never got to see the light of day. And I finally released it 2 or 3 years ago. Jack remixed that during COVID lockdown.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I remember I heard it, but I remember it was not. I think it was one of those things where I was like, how did I not hear this before? And it's like, oh, I guess you couldn't have. Okay,
you couldn't have. Yeah,
but I knew the name. But
we were on the verge of getting signed to Slash.
Right.
When the band broke up. Thank you, Heroin. So I was in these two bands that were completely and entirely nothing like each other, as opposite as two bands could get. And so both bands kind of broke up more or less simultaneously at the end of '84. I had met Jack Endino through feedback. He came to a couple of our rehearsals, and he had given me this tape, which the bulk of which later became most of his first record, Angle of Attack. And he played all of the instruments on it. And drums, bass, everything. Right. He went up to some little cabin up in the middle of the woods for like 2 weeks and just did nothing but play music every day and I was like, this stuff's really, really cool and really different. And I was just like, I think I want to do something with this guy. And so after the bands broke up, I just, the number was on the cassette, and I called him up and I said, hey, what's up? I have an idea for a band, and I'd like to start it with you. And my idea for the band was to create something that was somehow an amalgam of the aesthetics of these two bands that I was in.
So for lack of a better term, we'll say complicated instrumental compositions and the sort of punk turned heavy with psych-ish aspects.
Heavy, sexy, psychedelic, but cerebral at the same time.
Okay, yeah.
And
not bad.
I think the first record, the one with Matt Cameron on it, is the one that probably comes closest to
doing
that vision of the band. But what was interesting is during that first year of sort of doing that vision of the band, both Jack and I wanted something different. And we wanted something that still had those qualities, but maybe wasn't, I don't know. We basically wanted something that was heavier and sexier, because I think the first record is, as much as I think it's a perfectly good record, leans a little more into the cerebral side of things musically.
Sure. Yeah. And so what other bands were around? Because Malfunction isn't even a thing at that point yet.
Yeah.
I mean, they were around. Maybe I'm thinking that because they didn't put out a record for a bit.
Right. But I mean, if you look at the Deep Six record, which came out in '86, that is a good snapshot of all the bands that were around at the time. I mean, Newman, Skinyard, Malfunction, Malvin's, early Soundgarden.
With Your Heart, Not Your Hands, too. That
is correct.
Right? Yeah,
that's the first ever release of anything by Malfunction, was that record.
Nice.
And, there was other bands as well. There was Feast of Friends, who later became Feast.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about Seattle, like, people don't usually talk about, but, the Fastbacks were already playing at that point. I mean, the Fastbacks had been around since like 81 or 82. And so there's all these other bands that are these kind of more power pop driven bands in Seattle. And then there's this whole kind of hardcore punk scene as well, kind of at the same time. But most of those bands don't get as much attention.
Well, like the Farts and stuff. So
the interesting thing about the Farts is when the Farts changed their name to 10-minute warning.
10-minute warning. Right. Yeah. Oh, that's right.
and then very quickly changed the lineup. So the original 10-minute warning had Blaine on vocals. And then And then in 82 or 3, they got rid of him and got Steve. And I still don't really know the specific details of like how that happened or why it happened but that was the point which they became kind of less punk rock and kind of more heavy,
right?
Let's just say heroin rock,
Sure, for lack of a better term. Yeah. So then it's 85 is when there's the first show, right? That's the first show is like with the U-Men or something, if I remember right. Like
June 7th of, I think it was June 7th.
Okay, it's like summer 85. Then.
Yeah. So Jack and I first started writing in January. And
does that come along fairly quickly? Is that something we're just...
It was fast. Yeah. We I talked about the idea. He goes, yeah, that sounds cool. And then we just kind of plugged in. And the interesting thing about working with Jack is we didn't just play, but we were both people that would write and then also talk a lot about. And Skin Yard was always kind of that way. Like we spent time working on arrangements and talking about stuff. As a band, we would play together and like fuck around with different stuff and kind of say, oh, I like how you did this. And and then, bands like Nirvana come along and just like, they just kind of poop it out like it's nothing. And we're like, we just spent 3 weeks arranging a song. Fuck you guys.
Right. Yeah. Well, different strokes for different folks, So.
Yeah. So we had to work really hard at it, but I liked the way he thought about music and I liked the way he played, and we creatively worked really, really well together.
So 85, and CZ already exists, right? It's Chris and Tina before you take it over. Is that correct?
Chris and Tina put out Deep Six, and they put out the first Melvin single.
That's right. Okay.
And then I bought it from Chris and basically said, I'll sell the rest of your inventory. And that took years, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so interesting because I think
none of the bands were known at the time.
Well, sure. Yeah, I guess so. But I was thinking that Deep Six compilation is like, that's like one of the, oh, wow. One of the great compilations, but of course, you can take that to the bank and they'll be like, sir, this is not legal tender.
Yeah, pretty much. I sold a copy recently for $1,200.
Holy moly! Wow,
and I have like 4 left. But this is just an aside. But if I can make it happen, we're trying to do a 40-year re-release of the record for Record Store Day.
Oh, that'd be awesome! Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So fingers crossed on that.
Yeah, dude. Because I got I had it like on a tape. Somebody taped it for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, which in a way is for that era at least is like. That's like the classic way to listen to something, right? You're some broke punk rocker. Like, of course, yeah, great. Yeah. I don't even have a record player. Please.
Did you ever used to do the thing where you had a tape deck and you would like put 2 stereo speakers and record it on tape like that? Or like directly off the radio or something?
Dude, and like you get mad at the DJ for doing a talk up. Like, shut up. Yeah. I'm trying.
Exactly.
Stop. It's like hitting the post. He's all congratulatory. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
And actually, I wish I still had some of those tapes now because it's hilarious, right? Like,
probably.
Grand opening at the Safeway on McHenry. Okay.
And also just that the snapshot of like, so Kim Thile of Soundgarden back in the 80s, I don't know if he still does it. I'm guessing he doesn't, but he used to every year at the end of the year, he would make a compilation tape of all the stuff that he had listened to that previous year.
Oh, wow.
And I was just thought, that is so cool because, 10, 20, 30 years later, go back and kind of put it in and you get an exact snapshot of what my tastes were in that moment.
Wow. And that's crazy too, because some of it would be like lost to time otherwise, right? You wouldn't even remember, be like, what was I listening to? I don't know. No idea.
Big time.
Probably music.
Well, probably music. Yeah. But, I every once in a while rediscover, oh yeah, right. That band. I forgot about them.
Sure. Yeah. And that's
it's cool stuff.
it's a lovely thing. It's one of the reasons why I'll in days of yore when CDs still sold, I would occasionally, gotta pay the power bill or whatever. Like, let's sell some CDs off. But I would never sell things that were obscure. Because first of all, they didn't sell. But secondly, I was like, well, I'm never going to find this again.
You can sell your Aerosmith records because you can always find them.
Yeah, it turns out that they still have cheap trick records at like every record store ever that ever shall be, right?
Regardless of how amazing those first 5 records are.
Oh, they're fantastic, but I can get them at any time.
Yeah,
it's not a big deal.
Whereas you might have a harder time finding a record by Regressive Aid or 86 out of Atlantis.
Yeah, some obscure punk rock band that put out one thing that like 5 people have a copy of, right?
Exactly.
Never, ever.
Yeah.
So how does the Deep Six come about? Like, how is that? Because at the same time, because Skin Yard's kind of you're getting your legs, right? You start playing shows. Like, how does that, as a conceit, as a project, how does that come about?
My understanding is that Chris had just started a studio, a studio that later became Reciprocal Recording. And he was new to town, and he was a recording engineer, and he had this idea of like, if I put out a record and record all these local bands, that will basically be a calling card that will attract a whole lot of business.
Come record with me. It'll sound rad, just like all these rad bands.
Yeah, right, exactly. And it's a pretty cool idea, and I don't know the exact process of how he selected all the bands. I'm pretty sure he had 3 or 4. I think he had like 4 for sure. I think he was doing Melvins, absolutely, and Green River and Soundgarden and maybe Malfunction. And then the 2 kind of weird bands, the ones that don't quite fit as well, are basically Skin Yard and U-Men.
U-Men, yeah.
And
who were always their own thing. I mean, let's be real.
They were. And so I'm not sure how we got on, but I think these were all the bands we were playing with on a regular basis. And I think I just probably, strong-armed Chris into including us, but I don't actually remember for sure. I do remember that he was still looking for somebody else, and I was the one who's like, dude, you got to put the U-Men on. And he's like, I don't know, they just don't seem to fit. And I'm like, they do, but they don't. But I know what you're saying. But they're kind of the biggest band in Seattle right now. And if you want to sell records, you should put a song on by them. Like
and that's also why they should be there too.
We all play together. We all play on bills together.
Yes.
Like every other band on that bill at any given time. At that point in time, we're like always wanting to play a show with the U-Men if that was possible, because you would be guaranteed a huge crowd. Well,
and also that's the thing about quote unquote scenes or whatever, is that everything doesn't always slot neatly and nicely with each other.
Hopefully not.
Ideally, they shouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, for real, like that's one of the things that can be looked at as a detriment.
Right.
Time later on, it's like, oh wow, that's a strength. That's a strength that, because you never know what people in bands are going to do too. You never know like what crazy stuff might pop off.
Sure. Yeah.
But again, it's keep coming back to it, because it's just one of those formative comps, right? What the ones of like, oh, cool, this is, maybe you get it because of, maybe say you're in the Melvins, and then like you get it because of that, and you're like, oh wow, Green River's pretty good. Let me check that record out.
Right.
Oh, okay, what's the Skin Yard band all about? So on and so on, and it works because of that.
It does. Yeah. Although I think like. I will say for the record those are the only recordings Skin Yard ever did that still to this day make me kind of cringe.
I was going to ask if you like those recordings.
I don't, and I do like the first record. Like I'm fine.
First record's great. Yeah,
but
sounds good.
We were an exceedingly green band at the time that was recorded, and this is early on when like Ben, our singer, was like, I think the first 6 months we had a few songs that he played sax on. And it always kind of rubbed me wrong. It was just a little too artsy fartsy, and it was the one thing that kind of set us apart, not necessarily in a good way. And also like Ben just, he had never been in a band before. And so he was not a particularly comfortable or competent singer at this point. It took him a couple of years.
Yeah.
But he became a really solid singer. And interestingly, he was I think he was always actually a really strong lyricist. But you know, his vocals on those songs on Deep Six sound just a little too forced and a little too mannered in that kind of, you know, melodramatic kind of Bowie-esque kind of way.
He hadn't really grown into his thing yet.
He had not.
Right.
He didn't know what his thing was yet.
Sure.
He had no idea.
I mean,
but
some singers never find out.
Yeah.
You know, it happens. What are you
but
gonna do?
You know, he did. And so, you know, whatever. I mean, I'm not saying that I wish we weren't on that record. I'm incredibly glad that we were, because I don't know what would have happened to us in our arc had we not been on that record, because that's such an important document of that music scene at that point in time.
Right. So, and that's interesting too, because I mean, I think the record sounds great. I think the record still holds up too. Like, it definitely sounds like it sounds like a product of its age, but in a good way, not a like this sounds dated kind of way. It's like, oh wow, this is just a good record. And that's the only one with Matt, right? Because
this first record,
because then he joined Soundgarden, and they, what God, wasn't Chris playing drums at first, right?
So the very, very first version of Soundgarden, and I was at their very first show. It was a 3-piece. Yeah. A la
Hero and
it was Hero on bass, and it was the same three, but yeah, Chris was on drums and singing.
The singing drummer, that's right. Yes.
So
yeah,
a la Husker Du.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they were huge Husker Du fans when they first started.
Yeah.
It didn't take long before they got their first, you know, drummer that wasn't Chris, which was Scott Sutherland, and like one of the nicest people in all of Seattle. And he was a good drummer. He was kind of bombastic, you know, a little rough. I think one of the issues with him is his kick foot was really light. And I think that's really the only reason that they eventually got rid of him, is because they needed somebody that was just a tighter drummer. And like contrary to popular opinion, Matt didn't leave Skinyard to join Soundgarden. He just left Skinyard, and it was weird. There was no acrimony. I think he felt kind of restrained by what he was doing musically and wanted to do other stuff. And interestingly enough, I think he actually wanted to go in a more jazzy direction. And we kind of felt a little too constrained, because the thing about Matt, who was, I think without any question, the best drummer in Seattle at the time. Like, we were kind of known as the band that had the best drummer in Seattle.
Yeah.
But the thing about Matt, sort of the good and the bad, like the double-edged sword, is Matt could do anything that you could throw at him. You could throw him this weird little riff that, you know, went from like, you know, 11 to 13 back to 4. And he'd like, yeah, I got it. You know, he could do anything. And the problem is when you're with a drummer that can do anything, you're like, ooh, let's try this.
Yeah.
So he made it too easy to always try the cerebral stuff.
Right. Which isn't necessarily always the best choice. It's
right.
Just like
exactly. And so we kept going down that road. And at the same time, Jack and I especially were kind of like, but it doesn't, like, we want to do something different. And it was never going to be possible as long as we had Matt. So he left the band, and I think we were like, okay, yeah, we're ready for something different. And he was ready for something different. And then Soundgarden found out that he was available and pulled him in. And he had seen, you know, he had seen them before. So he's like, it was pretty undeniable. You know, it's like, oh shit, them. Okay, never mind. I'll do that. And the thing is, see, Soundgarden was never interested in kind of seeing what they could do cerebrally. I mean, they always had a cerebral edge for sure. They were the only other band that really were as tight as they were, doing things texturally, where it wasn't necessarily everybody play the same riff. And they were the only other band that were actually playing from time to time with Time Signature as well. But
absolutely, yeah.
But they were never like, let's see how arty we can be. Like, that was never in their
consciousness. King Crimson stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Like we actually did a King Crimson cover.
Yeah, I mean, I say that as a fan of multiple
Sure.
eras of King Crimson, by the way.
Me
but,
too.
yeah.
Me too. But there's a big difference, right?
Right,
And
yeah.
and so Matt was kind of the perfect drummer because he could do all the stuff, but that's not what they were doing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so it was this irony, like, oh, now he's in that band, and now they're doing exactly the thing it is that we've been wanting to do. But that's okay because we got Scott.
Yeah.
And we put out Hallowed Ground, which, as far as I'm concerned, was like talk about a redefining statement of purpose.
Sure. Yeah.
You know.
I mean, it's
Very different kind of record.
it's right there.
Yeah.
And in a good way. Like
And that one was much more influenced by like kind of a scratch acid kind of aesthetic.
Oh, I can hear that. Yeah, absolutely. I can totally hear that.
Mhm.
In a good way. And not that it was an homage or anything, but just
No,
like that
not
same
at all.
principle, right?
Not
like
at
that
all.
same
Just-
sort of vibey.
Something about the feel and the energy, because Scott was this young, dumb, and full of cum kind of, he was coming way more from a specific kind of punk rock standpoint, and he had an intensity of spirit, his personality. He was a hothead, and just as a drummer, like he didn't have the finesse that Scott had, but goddamn if he didn't just propel things in a whole different way, and it was way more exciting. Like the energy of what we were doing at that point was far more exciting than the previous record. Like we weren't a mannered band anymore. We were playing much more close to some sort of dangerous edge.
Sure. Because there's like stuff like Stranger, right? Where it's kind of wild sounding. Like it's sort of like oh wow, what's that all about? That's like but it's not that academic decathlon necessarily. It's
no. We felt unleashed with that record. Yeah. And that was exciting.
Yeah, and that's I mean, I think it's a kind of a mission statement record to a certain degree, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's sort of like it feels like
very much
you drilled into what your best selves could be, and really started like unleashing that, which is cool.
Yeah. So I've always said Skinnyard's two bands. It's the first record, and then everything we did after
and
that.
Everything else. Sure.
I mean, it's a fair statement,
Yeah, absolutely. So. That and what else is happening with the band as far as like not in not a recording capacity? You're playing out, like, are you getting out into the world like at large? Like what's the motif? And also pair that up with taking over CZ. No small feat, by the way. So you are suddenly doing two things.
Yeah.
That are very important.
Yeah. But you can relate to that.
Oh yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about, sir.
You don't play in a touring band putting out records and have a podcast that's been around 11 years. You wouldn't know, right? Yeah. So I think you and I are probably similarly wired in that way.
It's not for everybody, is what.
And
honestly, some days it's not for me.
Sure. I don't know. Like it didn't even occur to me that like, wow, I'm doing all this shit.
Well, it's a different muscle group, right?
And by the way, to throw another layer on top of it, starting in 1988, I was in Skinyard. I was doing I was designing all our posters. I was booking our shows. I was designing our album covers, booking our tours early on, running CZ Records, and working at Sub Pop.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I was at Sub Pop for 2.5 years, 1988 to the end of 1990. So, but none of it seemed excessive. It just seemed like this is fun. This is exciting. I'm doing all this cool stuff.
Yeah. And it's also because you're down in it and doing it too. You're kind of got a good handle for other bands and like who's doing the most interesting stuff, who's doing things that are cool, and that's got to be fascinating.
I mean, I was probably also going out to see live music 4 to 5 nights a week.
Yeah, that'll do it, right?
I mean, it's to be 24 again. No, thank you. But the they say that youth is what is it? Energy is wasted. Yeah, thank you. See, I'm my brain's so old now I can't even like conjure that phrase up anymore.
Right. It's fine. That's why we got Wikipedia, man.
Youth is wasted on the young, but I made good use of it, I think.
Right.
So
So what's the so you take it over, the catalog comes with it. What's the first thing you feel that you put out that's sort of like, oh yeah, that's kind of got my stamp on it. That's kind of like that's what I want to be doing.
The first Skin Yard record.
That's I should say that's not Skin Yard specific.
Okay, that's not Skin Yard. I mean that realistically that was kind of the initial impetus for Tinker.
Sure. Yeah.
It's like, well, shit, we haven't gotten signed. We had a number of very polite thanks but no thanks letters, but we weren't getting signed. And I'm like, well, shit, it's a good record. I want to put it out. It can't be that hard. And honestly, it wasn't. It was. I had to save a lot of tip money working from restaurants, and that was basically the hardest part, really.
Hollow Ground's like what, 88, right? So
Hollow Ground's 88, and by then I'd put out a number of records. I mean, those early days, I put out records, the first records, singles and EP, and then a full length by Coffin Break. I'd put out a record by Vexed, a band that nobody anywhere outside of Seattle knows, but
it's a good band name.
The first record was a killer record. Still stand by it. Put out a really interesting record by the Tone Dogs, which was Amy Denio and actually Matt Cameron on drums.
Okay.
And a guy named Fred Challenor on bass, and like Hans Reichel and Fred Frith are on that record.
Fred Frith, wow! I'm surprised I don't know that. I'm a big.
It's a pretty out there. I'll send you a copy. It's a pretty out there record. It's very experimental, but see, I have a very sweet spot in my own life for that kind of stuff. And I was probably the only label that was putting out like heavy rock and then stuff like that at the same time.
Right. It wasn't just like the one thing. Sure.
No. So, that was all, I'm trying to remember I don't remember the catalog numbers. Oh, and then the Teriyaki Asthma compilation.
I was going to say Teriyaki Asthma. And then there's also the, what was it called? The Kiss one. The
Kiss covers compilation.
Right.
Yeah. So, the Teriyaki Asthma was inspired directly from Dope Guns and Fucking in the Street.
Sure.
But from Amphetamine Reptile. I'm like, I love this idea of like having these little 7-inch compilations with 2 bands on each side. And, I did some things differently in that Tom didn't do exclusively AMRAP bands, but primarily I like to bring in more of a mix. I was very adamant that I was never going to repeat a band. I also did this thing where every single 7-inch would have a different designer do it. So like the very first one was Art Chantry.
Yeah.
Everyone was a different designer. And I kind of gave them a lot of free reign to just have fun with it.
That's so cool. Cause there's like, Alice Donut, Frightwig. There's like so many like kind of cool, like
L7, Hammerbox,
L7.
Babes in Toyland.
Suffer.
Yeah. There's a Nirvana. Nirvana's on the very first. They're on the very first one. It was Nirvana, Helios Creed.
Helios, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Coffin Break, and then of course I had to slip in a little fuck band. Oh yeah, a separate fuck band that I was in called Yeast that I was playing drums for.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
So
well, and that's one of those things that's kind of cool. You can play with it when it's known and unknown commodities. You can sort of sneak something in and people will be like, huh? What's that?
Yeah. And if you're playing music and you have a record label, you can put out your own shit whenever you feel like it.
It turns out pretty easy.
It may suck, it may not,
Yeah.
I mean, tell Greg Ginn that I'm wrong.
Yeah. So. That's right. Yeah, boy. How many who knew Gone, right? Okay. Well,
right.
I got that cassette expecting something entirely different. I'm like, oh, okay.
It was a departure.
Yep. He's doing that now, huh? Okay.
Yeah,
that's fine.
So I'm
lesson learned.
I'm sensing from your tone that you're not a fan of Gone.
Not a huge Gone fan.
Okay.
I think Greg Ginn is one of the most interesting guitar players ever.
He is.
And all respect and love, but not
didn't work for you.
I get it. I get why he did it. I don't want to listen to it.
Right. Well, I'm just going to say for the record, hey, Greg, if you happen to listen to this episode, I would love to interview you for the Skin Yard Oral History book, but I've been trying for years. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, let's see. Who I had on from Flag? I've had on Kira.
Mm-hmm.
Have I had anyone else? Oh, Keith. Keith Morris.
Right.
But Keith Morris is like Keith Morris Incorporated at this point. So
how about Chuck Tukowski?
He agreed to do it, and we never.
Okay. Yeah, I've asked him, and he's agreed to do it too. We'll see.
Dez's new band Astral Jets.
I don't know them. Are they good?
They're good. It's very different. It's like a psyche, like 60s kind of psych rock.
Really?
They opened for us in on this last tour.
Okay.
And
Where are they based? Where are they based out of?
They're in LA. So it's John Hall, who's in the Freaks, and
Yep. I'm good friends with
poke
Ruben.
your eyes out. Why can't I think of their name? Come on.
Oh.
What's the name of that band?
Which one? Not the Freaks.
No, not the Freaks, but like oh my god, this is like I'm having a senior moment right now.
Excellent. Hard work.
You stupid asshole. The punk band.
You stupid asshole. The punk band.
No. The song is You Stupid Asshole. Oh my god.
That might not be a bad name for-
Angry Samoan.
Okay,
is
yes,
what it is.
yes,
Jesus Christ, how could I? Yeah.
It's okay.
Anyway.
So it, for what it's worth, it only gets worse.
And Paul Rossler, who's in Screamers and
Yep.
everything else. They're great. But it's very much, it's like, oh, this is like straight up like 60 psych. That's
So wait, what are they called? I got to write it down.
Astral Jets. Astral Jets. Yeah, they're great. We played with them in Transplants Brewing in Palmdale.
Very cool. Very cool.
And yeah, great venue as well. But it's kind of surreal to me. I'm like, wait, a band does Cadenas and is opening for us? What world is this that I live in?
Well, there was this little band called Nirvana that opened for us a bunch of times.
Right. Exactly.
People like, no, they didn't. I'm like, actually, yeah, they did. Because they weren't always huge. Once upon a time, they weren't huge.
Absolutely. And we will get to that, believe it or not. But
Okay.
so we're on the second record.
Yep.
So let's move forward for that. So CZ, you're putting out some cool stuff. The Teriyaki Asthma, that's all like that's 91 or something, right? That's like
the first one is 88, I think.
Oh, is it really that early? Okay.
Maybe it's 89.
Okay. All right.
So, well, when did the first Nirvana single come out? So basically Teriyaki Asthma was within 2 weeks of that. They were like right next to each other. In fact, I can't remember. There's an argument as to which one came first, and I'm not going to say because I actually don't remember. But they were like this. They were weeks apart.
Got it. So yeah, Bleach is definitely June 89.
Okay.
Right.
So it's for Bleach.
88 is the Love Buzz single, right?
Okay. So the same time. 88.
Got it.
Yeah.
How'd you know those fellas? How'd you meet them?
Well, we were at a Skin Yard rehearsal, and Jack came in and he goes, I just got done recording this band over the weekend, and you guys got to hear it. They were amazing. We did a whole record worth in like a weekend, and they're just Jack's not somebody who's usually at a loss for words. Right?
Ooh, sure. Yeah.
He was at a loss for words, and he was kind of adamant that we had to kind of postpone rehearsal for a little bit so we could listen
to hear it. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So we're like, okay. And so we put it in, and we just sat there for like 4 songs.
Yeah. And
I think we all felt kind of a little weirdly crestfallen because it was just so good, and it was just so clear, and it was just so immediate. It was like,
yeah.
It was that kind of, it was like I was saying before, we would work weeks on,
one song,
on working the fine details of the song. And it was clear that this stuff just came out in the same kind of authentic, pure way that I always imagined like Neil Young, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Just
absolutely.
kind of plug in and play, and you just come up with this shit, and there it is. And you're like, how can you just poop something out that kind of perfect? So there was just this whole power of the music and just the phrasing and just everything about it was just kind of like, wow, this is amazing. And keep in mind,
they did it over the course of like 30 hours too, or something. Right?
Something like
ridiculously.
That. Yeah, and this is like Dale Crover is on drums on these demos, right? These are most of the tracks that later became Incesticide.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're like, oh shit. Well, let's call them up and see if they want to play with us our next show. And we called and said, hey, we've got a show coming up, blah blah blah. You want to play? And they're like, oh, we already have plans, we can't play. So we gave them the next show after that. Nice. Which was whenever it was in, I think it was June of 88. I'm not sure the dates. At the Squid Row, it was just Skin Yard and Nirvana. on this tiny little stage the size of a toaster. And
Sure. Yeah.
and they sounded great, but they were really awkward. And like this is when Chad Channing was,
Mhm.
and he had these weird drums that all kind of flared out. I don't know what they
Oh, what are
called.
those called? Those are
There's a name for it. Yeah.
Is that right? Is that called? Those North drums? I'm trying to think.
I'm not, but they're whatever. They were crazy. It was like, what
They're
the
wild
hell?
looking. Yeah, they look like they should come with flutes and elves.
Yes, exactly. And by the way, like Chad Channing is like, I don't know, 5'5", like he looks like an elf.
He looks
and he had, hair to his ass and
elf energy. Yeah.
Right. Elf energy. Totally. And then you've got, Chris on bass, who's like 9 feet tall and really lanky, especially at age like 22 or whatever he is.
They are North drums. I don't know why I know.
Okay.
That. Actually, I do know why that, because Daisy from Lung has a set. That's why.
Okay.
That's how I know that. Yeah.
So anyway, they were just this really weirdly awkward band on stage that looked like they were uncomfortable being there. And I remember Kurt appearing like he was afraid of the mic, like he was kind of like
tentative,
at odds with the mic, because they really hadn't played much, right? And I think at this point Chad was very new as their drummer, but I knew the material because I had Jack.
You'd heard the record, yeah.
Well, it wasn't even the record per se.
What they had recorded with Jack. So yeah.
But I was just like, I knew the material, and so they were great, even though they hadn't yet figured out kind of their live shtick, right?
They didn't have the presence and authority that maybe people would expect they would have coming out of the gate. But,
yeah. So we played.
Which nobody does.
We played with them a few more times after that, and the last gig we played was the very last show we played with Scott before we kicked him out. And and that was the point at which it was clear that everybody was at that show for them, not for us, even though we were headlining. And they went up there and just fucking destroyed,
just annihilated the place. Yeah.
And we were at a place where our energy was like bad. Our personal energy was bad. We weren't playing well.
Kind of beaten down a little bit.
Yeah. And so they just played this insanely good set, and we're just like, oh great. And we'd come off this tour from hell and just everything, we were just kind of like ugh. And then we scrambled to get our stuff plugged in as people were streaming out of the venue.
Oh my, that's the worst feeling ever.
Wait,
So
we're playing and people stayed, and we played a so-so show, but it just wasn't good. And
that's that can be so bad when it's just like when the bands are like at equal power or whatever, but people are like, well, we got rock, time to leave, and it's like, no man, stick around. And that's I mean,
it was hard.
And also I feel like some tours you come back at the end of it and like you're energized, and some you're like, let's just say not.
That was a terrible tour. And the thing is, like, we kicked Scott out. We had just finished recording.
Mm-hmm.
Actually we were still recording, but Scott was finished with all his parts for our third record for Fist Size Chunks. And at that point we really didn't know if we were going to be a band after that. Like we kind of broke up for essentially a year.
Yeah. That was that. Wow. Yeah. I mean, because that's sort of like if you're already kind of demoralized in certain ways, right? I mean, it's.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was, we'd had 2 records with Scott, and the first one was Howlett, and that was amazing. And and then Scott was, I mean, it was a long time ago, but at that point he was difficult to deal with. He was doing certain substances. He was drinking in insanely large quantities. His playing was just not great, and he was kind of really difficult on tour. Like at one point on tour, we were barely scraping by. And keep in mind, we didn't just do small tours. We did 6.5-week national tours. Like, we went out there and we stayed out there. And at one point, like, I don't know, 2/3 in the tour, he said, if I don't start getting more money as a per diem, I'm going to call my mom and have her fly me home.
Wow.
And
wow.
We happened to be in Providence, Rhode Island at that point. And one of my very dear friends, Billy Outwell, I don't know if you know him or not, but
I don't think so.
He had played in this band, and I knew him from being on Toxic Shock. He was in this band called The Inbred.
Okay.
This West Virginia punk band. And then he later was a drummer in the final record that the Rhythm Pigs did and toured with them.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Anyway, dear friend, incredibly talented musician, and huge Skin Yard fan. And we were in Providence where he lived, and Scott had just threatened to go home. And we're like, fucking fine. And so we went and rehearsed with Billy.
Go, dude. Yeah.
And he nailed every song and played better than Scott had the
Oh,
entire
man.
tour. And he'd never played with us before. And
That's
we're
awesome.
just like, all right, Scott,
Yeah.
we'll call your bluff. Check
Yeah.
and mate. Go home, because we literally don't have to miss a single day.
Wow.
And just tail between legs, shut up, the rest of the tour.
Yeah.
And just, he's a grumpy bastard for the rest. And we were grumpy bastards. And so we went
Everybody's having
back.
a terrible time. Don't
and,
worry, you still got 3 more weeks of this tour.
Yeah. And we recorded this record, and it was just like,
No idea what
it
that's
was,
like, by the way.
it was messy and it was sloppy, and just like Jack and I forever and ever have basically hated Fist Size Chunks, because it's reflective of the darkest time in the band's history. That's why the songs are so heavy and thick and dark, and just they feel bleak. And meanwhile, years subsequently, people are like, that's my favorite record. I'm like,
Of
okay.
course. Yeah, exactly.
I won't tell you that I hate it.
The one I can't listen to? Right. Okay.
But Jack actually remixed it a few years ago, and we re-released it digitally as Fist Remixed.
Mhm.
And he definitely did it justice. He actually turned it into the record that
It could have
it's
been.
like, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's good. It's still probably my least favorite of our records, but
It's still nice to have a good for the art to have a good fair shake.
and there are some of the songs on that record that I think are actually outstanding.
Yeah.
Just as a whole, it's a weird record.
And that's the one Helios does guitar on the last song.
Yes,
right.
That's correct.
Yeah, I mean that's he's a character, but
and then during that break after we broke up, and when we finally got Barrett Martin as our final drummer, during that break that I went in the studio with Helios.
That's right.
And did The Last Laugh, and that was a trip, because we wrote, rehearsed, and recorded that entire record in 3 days.
That's crazy.
And he gets credit as the writer, but I'm actually the person who wrote pretty much 90% of it.
Yeah, and that's the more that I kind of find out about some of the solo records, the more I realize that's not necessarily an outlier.
Yeah.
Peace and love. He's one of the all-time unique alien guitar players, and the best possible compliment intended. And I loved having him on the show, and all the crazy stuff we ended up talking about, half of which I don't remember. I was like, I felt high by the end of that episode. If that
Really?
gives you an indication. No, it was a wild ride.
Yeah.
It was, but he's great. I mean, he's
I think I have a record by them.
There's nobody like him.
There's nobody. Yeah, there's nobody like Helios.
I mean, that's something that some musicians spend their entire life chasing, and it's like, you kind of had that from the beginning, frankly.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure he's not somebody you want to go on the road with. And he asked me to, and I politely declined. But to this day, I'm still exceedingly happy with that record. I just think it's such a cool standalone thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's a was it Jason Finn on drums?
Jason Finn.
Yeah,
who actually was Skin Yard's second drummer.
Oh, okay, cool.
He was only with us for 6 months, but we did record a handful of tracks with him. We never did a record.
And he ends up when the heck did this Presidents of the United States of America? That's like 92.
Yeah, something like that.
They get together, something like anyway, whatever.
I mean, he's known for, well, that's what he's known for most. But he did Love Battery, and I thought he was a great drummer in Love Battery.
Yeah, Love Battery, sure, of course that. Yeah.
Between the Eyes, I think isn't.
Yeah.
But the Presidents of the United States of America is what made him. I'm pretty sure a wealthy man. I've never talked. I've never talked finances with him, but I mean,
they had 2 songs that were more or less ubiquitous for like a good year and a half.
Yeah,
so
I don't think he's ever had to work since, other than
good for them.
Working in a band, and good for him.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah,
I mean, Jason is one of the funniest people on the planet. And he's just a great dude. Like, Jack and I will both tell you that playing with him was like, we both really just loved playing with him. It was fun.
Yeah, it's a good time.
He wasn't the most technically adept player, but he had a certain kind of swing and a certain kind of psychedelia that just, he brought a specific kind of element out in us that was just there, just with Jason, you know.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it was enjoyable, you know.
How about Barrett? When did he enter the picture on there? Because that's sort of like that.
That would have been, I guess, probably beginning of 1990 or thereabouts.
Yeah,
something like that. That whole thing came about because he. So you know, the band was maybe done. We didn't know.
Yeah.
Jack's recording career was skyrocketing.
Sure.
I was pretty much full blown gangbusters with CZ Records. I was working at Sub Pop. I played for 9 months in that band Yeast, playing drums. I did the record with Helios. Like, I was not sitting still. I was doing stuff. And Jack had put out his second, he either had put out or was just about to put out his second solo record, which was Indino's Earthworm.
Right.
And so he put together a show. And most of Indino's Earthworm actually he had a few different people, but Barrett was on drums for the bulk of it, and Rob Skinner from Coffin Break was the bass player on most of it. And Jack had a show at the Vogue. I think it was playing with the Melvins, but I can't remember for sure. And I think Rob Skinner was like on tour with Coffin Break because they were road animals. They toured a lot, and so he needed a bass player, and he's like, "You want to do this?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, let's do this." And so I learned all the songs, and we played the show, and I was like,
This is good.
pretty good.
Yeah.
And Jack was like, you know, we could do Skin Yard with him. And I was a little reticent at first because I was like, I don't know. He plays jazz grip.
Yeah.
He's a little light.
Different feel.
He doesn't quite rock how I want. And Jack was like, we can teach him to rock.
Fantastic. Yeah, great line.
And I think that was probably verbatim what he said. And we proceeded to teach him to rock. Like, okay, let's start with the jazz grip. No go.
Yeah.
Do this. Okay, heavier, more tribal. And he kind of found this whole different voice as a drummer playing with us that he then, you know, took into the Screaming Trees after that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So he has all the technique there, but he discovered this other kind of raw power that was just like, wow. And you know, to this day, I will say without hesitation that Barrett was the most perfect drummer for the version of Skin Yard that we became. Because in my mind, 1000 Smiling Knuckles is the closest that Skin Yard ever came to realizing the perfect record. You know how, like, when you go into a record, you have a vision of what that record is going to be like.
Yeah, of course.
Right. And to me, Knuckles is that record that comes the closest to what we were imagining it to be.
Yeah.
And
yeah, no, and it's
love it.
Look, I mean, it's arguably the rhythm section kind of shines more on that one than any of the rest of them, really. I mean, it's just in general, like, it's
but like our writing was just like everything was just firing. Our writing was just so honed, and we were all getting along and really loving life again, and our playing was great.
Yeah.
And even the recording, I was probably the best sounding recording that Jack ever did for Skin Yard as well. Like, just everything. And even the art. I think it's our coolest art. So I don't know.
So perfect time to quit, right?
Perfect time to quit.
Everything's wonderful. We finally did it, boys. I'm out.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So
was that a verbatim quote or no?
pretty damn close. Pretty damn close. Yeah. Yeah, I was the one that quit, and let's see. Okay, let's back up. In March of '89, I had a kid, and we went on tour when he was 2 weeks old, and we came back on tour and he was 2 months old. And that was the tour from hell, which was bad for so many other reasons, but that just made it worse.
That you're missing these formative time you will never get back, and you're doing it to be in a van with not necessarily having a good time.
Well, I never liked touring that much. that was the thing. Like
Mm.
I did it out of necessity, but I never
Right.
really, like, I enjoyed that hour that we're on stage.
Sure. Oh, everyone
And-
enjoys that part. Yeah.
And the rest of it, the rest of it can eat shit, basically, as far as
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
concerned,
No, that
right?
part's great.
But I mean, some people love being on the road.
Yeah.
I'm just not one of those people, you know. Like
It's fine. It's
we
not for
weren't,
everybody. Yeah.
we didn't always get along that great during those, 11 hours of driving in between.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And some bands do better than we did, but so that was a part of it. I mean, the story that's told most often by the other members is I quit because I had a son, and it wasn't as simple as that.
Mhm.
I'd been.
It's also
the
you've
pri-
been doing this on money iterations for years
It
too.
was 6 years at this point.
Yeah.
And it was and we worked, we worked hard. We
Yeah.
we
We're
didn't
sitting on your laurels about it. Yeah.
never did. Like we always worked hard. We were always, writing, we were always touring, or like, and I was probably the main person driving that forward, because there's always the one guy in the band who does the bulk of the heavy lifting. I was that guy.
Yeah, of course.
And also I think a part of it too is we knew that we were a good band.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we were watching almost all of our peers get signed. Everybody but us. That's how it felt anyway. Right.
Because that's basically when the gold rush kind of starts, right? And you're like,
Yeah. Like it would have
Okay.
been nice to get a payday for all of this. So
we've been doing this for a bit, right? Like we're pretty good at it.
So when I gave notice, there was a couple things happening. One, I said, okay, I'm giving early notice.
Mm-hmm.
We had a record coming out, which is 1000 Smiling Knuckles. We were
Mhm.
going to do a national tour, and we were going to do a European tour. And so what I said is, I'm giving notice that at the end of the European tour, I'm out.
Right.
The other thing that was happening at the same time is, because I was the guy doing all the heavy lifting, and I was the guy in the business of music, most predominantly, is I actually had a development deal with Warner Brothers on the table for $250,000.
Really?
Now, that was small change for the kind of money that was flying around at
Oh,
that point.
yeah, exactly.
But the beautiful
couch
thing about
cushions.
that is we would get complete creative control,
yeah,
which
yeah.
a lot of bands didn't get.
Yeah.
And we had Jack and Dino, who could record the record like for next to nothing and do a lot of it on off hours when nobody's looking. So I was saying to the band, like, guys, let's take the money. Let's record our next record. Let's deliver it to Warner Brothers. We can buy new equipment, whatever. We can buy a new van, blah, blah, whatever. We can each have $30,000 to $40,000 that we walk away with a piece, which back then in Seattle was enough for a significant down payment on a house.
Yeah, you're good.
So
What more do you need?
I was
Yeah.
like, let's do the deal. Let's record
Yeah.
the record. Let's all buy houses. And you can, like, after the 2 tours, see what happens. Who knows? Maybe I'll reconsider and stay. Anyway, I was such a miserable fuck at this point, I think. And I probably had been just like a lot of no fun to be around for a while. And they came back, and I think it was basically mostly Ben's doing, because Ben and I infamously fought like we locked horns constantly.
Mm.
And they just said, yeah, we've decided that the show in February is going to be your last show. And I'll never forget this, but it was, we're going to go on tour with our new bass player and our new sound.
Oh, boy.
And I was like, what book did you read that from? And I knew Jack had nothing to do with this, because Jack is a very non-confrontational person.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and he and I started the band together, but he just, like, Ben and Barrett kind of were hanging out a lot, and Ben wanted me out, and, Ben got Barrett on board, and that was that. And so I was very crestfallen and actually very angry for a good few years. And I said, well, what about this Warner Brothers deal? Like, are you sure about this? And he's like, no, we're fine. We'll get another deal. I'm like, oh, really? Okay.
Well, okay.
Best of luck to you.
Yeah,
And
okay.
and I played our last show in February of '91, opening for No Means No. Amazing show, astounding.
Goddamn. Yeah, what a band, right?
And that was it. And I was just like angry and bitter for a long time. And they did the national tour. they played their last show ever in the US in September of that year. And then they went to Europe for 4 weeks. All their gear got stolen in Italy. Not all their gear. I'm sorry. All the guitars.
That's enough. Yeah.
They left the amps and they left the drums. And it was on that tour that was the only time that Skinnyard ever opened for Nirvana. Had a show with Nirvana, and then they had another show with Urge Overkill, I think. Anyway, and then they played their last show ever, like November, I think, in London. Jack stayed behind because he had a bunch of recording gigs in London, and the band broke up on the plane on the way home. That was it. And they still had another record's worth of material to record, which I guess they did in like December, January. And the story as I heard it is that they were never in the studio at the same time, which to me is just like, what? How do you call that recording a record? Like, I don't know. But
yeah.
And then, eventually it came out in like 93, like literally a year and a half after the band had broken up. And and that was that. So I left the band, but I think it's pretty clear. Like 7-8 months later, the band was done anyway. Like the band was kind of running on fumes at this point, and also Ben had Grunge Rock already going on at this point at the same time.
Yeah. So it's splitting enthusiasm, splitting time. Yeah, I mean, it's
easy pivot for him. And as soon as the band broke up, Screaming Trees grabbed Barrett. I was full steam ahead with the label. Jack was full steam ahead with recording. Like
everyone kind of goes there, goes off and does their own thing, pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, and when I think of like that 92, sort of like 93 era, I mean, that there's that Silkworm, right? That was another like for early CZ. Like, oh yeah, is this the same label that did those cool comps? Like, oh cool, right on.
Yep. And Engine Kid,
of course. 7 Year Bitch.
Yep.
Right.
The Gets.
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Hammer Alexa's first record. I don't know if you're a fan or not, but
I never really listened to them, but I feel like I should have. But I mean, I've talked to Steve, but French and the Bully, man, that record is just like, that's one of the great under listened to records of the 90s.
It's a fantastic record,
and they did do that reissue, thankfully, which is great. I hope more people can hear. And actually, my friend Karen from Cosmic Kitten even sang with them on when they did those shows. Last year, which was pretty special and pretty awesome because she's a powerhouse in her own right. But you're deep in it in Seattle music. But not playing in your band anymore.
Correct.
Are you able to square the circle on that psychologically? Is that okay?
Yes and no. Like I said, I was angry and bitter for a number of years.
Yeah.
Because I felt really that they had slighted me, and hey, they had.
The reason why you feel like that is because that's what happened.
Because but. And I think the big part, the big thing for me is I think Skinnyard was not just a part of my identity, but it kind of was my whole identity.
Yeah.
Even though I was the one that gave notice. The thing is, I had CZ Records, and I was very busy, and I was very active, and I was working with all these bands at the time. So
you put out that first Build to Spill record, right? I mean,
I put out the first Build to Spill record.
Waivers, it's great. I love that record.
I launched the career of Build to Spill. Yes.
Yeah. Who are still to this day playing, and arguably,
yeah.
So
I was able to pivot that part of me because I was doing that.
Right.
I think the hard part was maybe not playing in a band anymore.
Right.
But it was kind of intentional. Well, it was intentional because it's still been 30 years and I still haven't been in a band since then. So, but for many years after, in those years in the 90s, I knew that anything I ever did in any band I ever played in, I would be comparing everything to 1000 Smiling Knuckles. And my feeling was that was as close to perfection in terms of what I envisioned, that I ever thought I would I would never get any closer. Now, maybe like now enough time's gone by to where I wouldn't have those expectations, because whatever I might do with some people would probably sound completely different.
And it's internal pressure, right? You're putting your own.
Of course.
This doesn't exist outside nobody else is thinking this. It's in your brain.
Yep. But I don't know. Like I felt like I had reached the pinnacle that I'd set for myself.
Yeah.
And that was a point of deep satisfaction. and I guess I didn't want to really run the risk of like doing something that felt subpar to me. But the other part too is I did have a kid.
Sure.
And
it's a pretty important job too.
I didn't like touring.
Yeah.
So I also knew myself well enough to know if I'm going to be in a band, I'm going to probably start to take on that whole role again. And I'm going to get really perfectionist about our writing. I'm going to start booking shows, and I'm going to want to go in the studio, and I'm going to want to record a record. And I still like all that part, but then you got to support the record. And I'm like, I really
got to do the stuff that you do not like. So
don't want to tour again, you know?
Right. Yeah. It really isn't for everybody, and that is okay.
Yeah.
You know,
but I am thinking very seriously about playing music again.
But it's also one of those things that everybody likes to use Harry Nilsson as an example. It's like, yeah, but there's only one Harry Nilsson. And like, there was like, did you have the Beatles giving you big ups? Because if you didn't, like, chances are you're not going to be able to make it work in the same way that Harry Nilsson did.
Well, the difference is I don't really want to, if I'm in an actual active band, which I may or may not be, I really probably only want to play on occasion. Mm-hmm. And the furthest away I would go from San Diego would maybe be San Francisco and maybe Tucson.
All right.
And just for occasional weekends.
Yeah.
But
the weekend warrior kind of, you know.
But the more likely thing that I would do actually is to do this thing that, you know, speaking of technology, that evens the playing field, is, you can't see it, but in my backyard over here, I just poured a slab recently, and I'm getting ready to build a little 10 by 12 studio that will eventually be the home of the Creative Asylum podcast.
Sure. Yeah.
And will also be where I'll do my office stuff, and will also be where all my musical gear will go, which will make my wife very happy. And
have it out of the house. Yeah.
and the thought is that that's a place where I can just go, and that's a space dedicated to doing creative things.
It's a space you go to for your creativity. Now, I'm glad you mentioned that, because something that I've noticed is important for me is having a separate space that is for those things.
Right.
And can I do it without that? Sure.
I'm in the middle of my living room sitting at our dinner table. Right.
Right, exactly. Well, and I've talked about this, and it's like the Mr. Rogers thing, right? When he comes in, he puts the sweater vest on, like he's going to the space to do. He's Mr. Rogers, like he's
right.
It's everybody's friend, Mr. Rogers now, and we're gonna go to the land of make believe, and all the sorts of things are gonna happen on the show, and you need to have that ritual of putting that change has to happen. And even though it's not physically that much of a change, it's a psychological change. It puts you in a different state of mind.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I have this idea of like, once I'm set up, and it might be a year from now, you know, I want to have a little multi-track studio. Nice. I want to have the software. I want to have my pedals and my stuff, and I want to teach myself stuff that I don't currently know how to do.
Right.
You know, write stuff with drum machine, and then collaborate, because I know a ton of musicians, right? So I can collaborate long distance, and maybe, depending, like maybe a band could come out of that.
Sure.
But I kind of have this musical goal for myself between the age I am now and me turning 70.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, keep in mind, I'm in my 60s, so it's not that far away, which that in of itself is a super weird thing to say.
It's weird,
or to be experiencing, but it's the reality. So I want to do a record that's really good, stuff I write with different people. I want to do just a bunch of really cool shit. I have no idea what any of it will sound like. Zero.
Yeah.
And then the other record I want to do, which may or may not happen, but I've talked to a few different bass players about this, is I want to do a whole series of songs that are similar in scope with collaborations with other people, but in every track, there's two bass players.
Oh, cool. All right. Yeah. Yeah.
So for instance, I've spoken to Hiro Yamamoto about doing
all
it.
right.
He's like, oh, that sounds cool. I've talked to Paul Malinowski from Shiner about doing this.
Paul's
And I'm
great,
like,
yep.
how cool would it be to have like a record with 10 songs and each one is a different musical collaboration with different bass player.
Yeah. I've never heard that.
And maybe different musicians. Like maybe every track is a different group of people.
That, yeah,
It's super fun.
yeah. I that's very close to the original idea I had for Conan, Neutron, the Secret Friends, by the way. So watch out is what I'm going to say.
Okay.
10, 11 years later, here I am. No, that's great, and that's and I think if you have a studio space to work out of that you're comfortable
exactly.
too, like you'll be able to really.
I don't have to set up, break down. It's just
it's right there. Yeah, stuff's set up. You can.
There's a door with a key.
If I was forced into a position of advice giving for that kind of thing, I'd be like, whatever way you record your music and whatever capacity that is, if it should be set up and ready to go
whenever.
Minimal amount of like turn something on is one thing, but I gotta find the adapter for the thing, and then well, guess what? That riff's gone now.
It's already plugged in.
Yeah, it's already plugged in. You could just freaking go.
I mean, might even have a little tiny drum kit in it, like
great, yeah,
whatever.
Why not?
So
drums, who knows?
So that
depending how good you use soundproof. If you want some soundproofing tips, by the way,
I will. Yeah. So those are the two records I want to do by the time I'm.
I love that. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I mean, that's again, the danger is you put yourself on your own schedule.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, what do you mean? But no, I think that there's a lot of potential there, and there's a lot of potential, especially for someone like yourself, like knows so many awesome musicians, and also that's a lower barrier of entry than like, hey, want to start this band with me and tour the world? It's just like, hey, want to make something cool? Yeah, I would like to make something cool. That sounds great.
I mean, I know a few musicians who are absolutely into making music as long as we don't actually have to have a rehearsal schedule. And as long as we don't have to necessarily like they might.
Yeah.
Like I have a friend who I really want to do some stuff. He's a great drummer up in LA. And he just he will play drums on something as long as he doesn't have to commit to anything more than, I'll learn the stuff and we can play it in the studio. But
after
past that, don't talk to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, perfect.
Yeah.
That's the kind of collaboration I want.
It's perfect for that. Yeah, absolutely.
And and I can find somebody to put it out. And if not, I know somebody who has a label. So
tell me about some of your other post Skin Yard activities. Like I think it's interesting that you've done internet stuff, right? You had back before the streaming era, you had like one of the great download sites of downloading. God damn, I'm dating myself even saying that, right? When there just wasn't that many. There's like Epitonic, was around, right? But there weren't that many that were like kind of catered to the sensibility of people who liked the kind of stuff that we like,
right.
And tell me about that. Tell me about how the download punk whole thing.
Well, prior to that, when I was in Seattle. So after Kurt died, the entire kind of infrastructure of the Seattle music scene just kind of crumbled.
Yeah.
Right. And it became very obvious very quickly that, if I was going to do anything with CZ again, it was just going to become a hobby again, because previously I could sell 5,000 copies of any record if the band had the word Seattle next to them.
Right. Yeah.
And after Kurt died, that number went from like 5,000 to 2,000.
Right.
Like that fast. So anyway, I was back to actually working real jobs again. And I applied for and interviewed for this job with this company called Real Networks in Seattle. Oh, yeah. And talk about streaming, Real Networks is the company that invented streaming.
Yes.
They are the ones. And they had this job being a content programmer for this app that never actually ended up getting launched, but it was called Rolling Stone Radio. And it was basically a partnership with Rolling Stone, and Real Networks was going to be the technology partner, and they're going to launch this thing. And they basically wanted somebody to manage the program. And I went in and I just like killed every interview. It was one of those things. I was like 6 hours of interviews with like all these different people.
Yeah.
And in the end, they're like, well, we loved you, but you don't know HTML and you don't have any experience working with web. And I'm like, web is like 6 years old.
Right. Yeah.
And I was kind of really bummed out, but I'm like, well, fuck this. I bought the Laura LeMay book, which looks like a brick you could kill somebody with. And I taught myself HTML, teach yourself HTML in 14 days. Yeah. Try 5 months, but whatever.
Yeah.
Did the whole book front to back. I'm like, this is really cool. I'm liking this. And then I enrolled in a program at North Seattle Community College, web development. And I had done all this HTML and put some sites up on the stuff I'd done. And I emailed everybody that I had interviewed with. And I said, hey, since then, I'm now in a web development program working on a degree. And I've taught myself HTML. Here's a bunch of links, blah, blah, blah. And they called me that day and said, we'd like to have you come in and interview for a job. And I got a job at Real Networks working in the music department doing music. We had this thing called the Real Guide. And we had different sections. And we had the music section and me. And it was actually me and Matt, who runs Light in the Attic Records, long before I had Light in the Attic. And we were both partners in that department in Real Networks doing all the music programming for the Real Guide. So I was there for 2.5, 3 years. And then when the big boom bust happened, I was part of the first 15% company-wide layoff.
Yeah.
And at that point, I finished my web development degree because I had been hired. So I stopped studying and just learned on the job. And I finished the degree. And a year later, moved down to LA with my then girlfriend, now wife. And I was like, I'm in LA. I have a degree in web development. I have some experience. And I don't quite know how it was that I connected with Louis Posen of Hopeless Records, but they had this idea of doing a music download site for kind of, broadly speaking, the genre of punk.
Right. Whatever that means to you. Sure. Yeah, exactly.
And we're talking 2003. So I basically spent a couple months writing all the technical docs for the launch and development of the site. And I hired people to actually do all the coding and oversaw the art direction and basically built this site, like a functional site and a functional workflow. And I was also involved with reaching out to every single label to basically do content acquisition. And once I got Epitaph on board, everybody else became a lot easier.
Yeah.
And I actually got, this was an amazing thing. Speaking of Greg Ginn, I actually got him to willingly let us do some SST catalog for download.
And that's huge.
But some. But he had said absolutely not to everybody. So we were this standalone kind of.
Was it just gone? No kidding.
What's that?
Here's the thing. I'll give you the catalog, but it's just gone.
I don't remember who it was. There was a few different, but none of the ones you really wanted. There was no Minuteman. There was no Black Flag. There was no Sonic Youth. There was no Security, right? No, like whatever. So obscure, weird stuff that he wasn't selling anyway. But
what's the risk?
So we built this whole thing, and so there was Apple Music, and then there was this little genre specific, but very in tune with the larger community. But the problem in the end was the fact that Apple Music was also able to get pretty much all the same stuff that we were able to get, and they had Apple money, and Louis didn't want to spend the money for the marketing, so it was around for a couple of years, and then it just kind of went bye bye.
Yeah,
but still a really, really cool thing.
There was a kind of brief moment, right, where it's like, oh wow, this is going to be great. Like,
yeah,
it
was
going to
cool.
be really cool.
I still to this day think if he would have spent, $30,000-$40,000 marketing, it actually could have had a shot. But he was a believer of like, if you build it, they will come. I'm like, no, that's not going to work. But I did some other stuff after that. I worked for a company called Shout Factory,
That's right. Yeah, Shout Factory's great. Yeah, great work.
And I did this huge project rebuilding this whole web universe, which is now gone because now they've just gone straight e-commerce website. But this had e-commerce and all this rich media and a streaming player.
It was a real ahead of its time thing.
It was very cool. It was very cool.
Yeah.
And then later I launched a site which was called Rock and Roll Dating, which was the first ever music specific dating website.
Pre-app.
Yes, pre-app. And I had about 8,000 active users when GoDaddy did this horrible update to my server, which wiped the entirety of my user database clean, including my backups, which was on a separate dedicated section of the dedicated server. They just wiped it clean. And there's nothing I could do to restore it. They're like, well, just put up the backup. And I'm like, you wiped up my backup. They're like, well, what? You didn't keep it on a separate server? I'm like, no, this was our dedicated server. We partitioned a section.
You literally pay for,
And so that was it. That was the end of it. And that was too bad because the whole idea was to build that and grow it enough and then finally just, sell it and make some money.
Well, it's very ahead of its time, right? Because now it's like, it's not that specifically, but everything is so niche you can just micro target.
But now there are like 5 or 6 different music dating websites.
Sure. Yeah.
And mine was better. So whatever.
But it's like ask Betamax if being better helped.
True. But whatever. Live and learn.
Yeah.
I have no qualms about any of those experiences and any of those startups. Like, it was all super cool. And I learned stuff from all of it.
So what can folks expect from the Creative Asylum podcast? Your newest endeavor.
Well, I'm going to aspire to be as interesting as you, which may or may not work.
Go on. No, seriously, go on.
I said, no, please.
No, please.
It's basically long form conversations, not unlike this, with a bunch of different creative people. I think I mentioned earlier that the primary focus is probably at first anyway, musicians, just because for me, that's the lowest hanging fruit, but
you got quite the Rolodex, as they used to say. Yeah.
But I'm trying to go beyond just music. So I'm going to be doing actors, photographers.
Yeah. This is interesting to me.
Film directors. So like Ann Magnuson is going to be the first actor that I'm doing because she's an old friend. Couple different film directors, Doug Prey, who did Hype and Scratch.
Oh, cool.
And Infamy, and more recently did Love Lizzo a couple of years ago for HBO.
Nice.
Doing an interview toward the end of this year with Dave Markey, who's got, well, he did 1991, the year punk broke, but he's got a brand new record.
I was just going to ask if it was that guy, but I was going to look it up first.
It was that guy. Yeah. And he has a brand new movie coming out about Bill Bartell.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. And so
1991 year punk broke, formative film for me.
Yes.
Because I was still in Modesto, California, pre-internet as we know it now. So I would take like any drips and drabs of counterculture that came my way. And that was a huge one because it was like seeing live footage of a lot of these bands that I really didn't get the chance to see, but I knew were happening close to me and was driving me crazy that I couldn't get to it.
Yeah.
So
I think it's going to be interesting. And then I've got one interview with a woman named Lori Lipton, whose work probably most music people won't know, but Lori, Laurie, her work is insane. She's in her 70s, but is spry like a young 32, has been working for over 50 years, working exclusively in pencil.
Wow.
And she does these enormous, some of her pieces are like 8 feet tall and 20 feet wide.
Holy moly.
I have a piece behind me. You can just see it. You can just see it in the screen. It's a small one. Mine is only like 2 by 3 feet.
Yeah.
But her work is just insane. And then like next year, going to be interviewing Peter Bagg, cartoonist, if you know him. Hate, right?
I have so many hate. Actually, OG hate comics.
Really?
Now that I think about it, they should probably be stored a little,
just a little better,
a little more elegantly. But that was like one of my favorite comics of the 90s.
So I want to talk to musicians. I want to talk to artists, photographers, directors, like the full spectrum, because I'm just interested in creative people and like what drives them more often than not, what drives them to do the creative thing they do in spite of all the things that could probably make them a hell of a lot more money.
Exactly. And in spite of a world that may have instant availability for everything, but it's a fire hose of things coming at you all the time, always.
Right.
And that doesn't always support the needs of the creative person while attempting to celebrate the creative person. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's great.
And I have this whole thought that a lot of people are sort of quietly creative, but are dissatisfied and don't feel like they can give themselves permission to pursue those things.
And we're back to that weirdly, right? Because I feel like that was the case for a long time. And then like, oh, anybody can do anything. Now it's like, no, it has to be like this. Do it like this. And it's like, that is anathema to my entire personality.
Yeah. You
know what I mean? Like, no, man.
I'm hoping people will be inspired. Like, that was fucking cool. I can do that. I can, whatever that is. I can do the thing I want to do, and I'm going to give myself permission to pursue whatever the thing is. And like, people will have a richer life because of it.
I love it.
That's kind of the seed of the whole thing. That's it.
So folks can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts on the podcast things soon. Actually, when you're engaging with us,
I will give a pitch. Facebook.com/the-CA-pod.
Oh, nice and short. Yeah, good.
I
thought about that stuff way after the fact.
Really?
It's like, and it's not consistent. Sometimes it's Protonic dot reversal. Sometimes it's Protonic reversal show. Like I clearly just gave 0 F's about it. You know?
Some of the things I wanted, unfortunately, were taken. So
that's. Can I tell you?
Yeah,
I'm not a raging egomaniac. That's why it's Conan Neutron's Protonic reversal. Because there was another thing called Protonic reversal that's now long gone.
Really?
It's long gone, whatever it was. But I was so fed up. I was like, yeah, this is Conan Neutron's Protonic reversal. Done.
Okay. And what is a Protonic reversal?
It's a Ghostbusters thing. It's like what happens when you cross the streams. And it's only because it's like a play off of my name, right? But I was like, oh, that sounds cool. That was the only reason. And I was so pissed that something else had it that but I was like, I was in such different times. I was just like, all right, this is Conan Neutron's Protonic reversal. That's it. That's the only reason. It's not. And then I look like I got my name in my band. I got my name in my podcast. Like, all right, Jesus Christ, like, look like I'm the world's greatest egomaniac. But look, it's what it is. You're thinking about SEO. That's great.
Yeah.
Hope
if you've gotten this far, go to Facebook, look up the CA Pod.
There's an Instagram, Creative Asylum.
And there's Instagram is Creative Asylum CA, as in the letter CA, because Creative Asylum was already taken. Damn it. So anyway,
that's the other thing. Right?
And actually, and YouTube, same. YouTube is Creative Asylum CA. So there we go.
Looking forward to the launch, man. So great to talk with you.
Thanks so much. I really, really appreciate you.
No, it's a blessing.
Yeah.
When we originally started talking, like I said, I have this just disheveled, this is a good way to put it, file of all these people that I eventually want to talk to.
Yeah.
And I eventually get to at least asking everybody. But I actually had you on the list. I just had never bothered actually reaching out. Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
I'm honored. I never would have guessed.
I mean,
you had me on the list before I sent you that email saying
I did.
I did that Ray Washington video.
I mean, it wasn't like high on the list, but I had you on the list.
That's fine.
But it's funny because I just, whether it makes sense or not, I do this as a one-man show, right?
Yeah.
It's the crack sometimes show a little bit. So I was, when I heard from you for something completely unrelated, I was like, oh, hey, yeah, great. Yeah. Let's do it.
Great. And the timing's great. So
yeah, great.
I'm super psyched.
Turns out it's awesome. Last thing, only question I ever ask, choose to interpret it however you like, sir. But why do you do what you do?
Why do I do what I do? Because I don't have any choice but to do what I do, because if I don't do the things that I'm driven to do creatively, life is too dark and depressing. And what's the point? That's all I got.
Thanks so much, man. Appreciate you, brother.
All right, man. Take care.
Take care. There he goes. Daniel House, go ahead and yeah, depending on when you're engaging with this, at least follow him on social media for Creative Asylum. Creative Asylum CA is the CA pod on Facebook. If you're a Facebook person, let's go out with let's go. We're gonna do Living Pool. This is on the well, it's on Skinyard Select as well if you're a Bandcamp person, but it's on the 1001. Here we go.
Baby, let's try to sever our arms under the ice. I'll comfort at home. Our lips turning blue, pushing against cold. Under the ice, I'll comfort at home. Sink and swim, it's only us. Yes, sink and swim in the living pool. Baby, let's try to be as one. Baby, let's try to be as one. Jump on the ice, let's test it all. But baby, you're cold, under comfort at home. Sink and swim, it's only us. Yes, sink and swim in the living pool. In the living pool. You be the bone, and I'll be the dog. Or you be the dog, and I'll be the bone. By the living pool. Baby, let's try to sever our arms under the ice. Our comfort at home. Our lips turning blue, pushing against cold. Under the ice, our comfort at home.
Skinyard. That's Living Pool. It's an alternate version. Yeah, and that features Mr. Daniel House. Yeah, you're right, Rick. It does kind of sound like No Man's Now a little bit. You can see why they played together, right? That was great. Hope you all enjoyed that talk with Mr. Daniel House. Oh yeah, it's on 1000 Smiling Knuckles. I said 1001 earlier. I was thinking 1001 album complaints because I got podcasts in the brain. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to that show. This is Protonic Reversal. Really appreciate it. Go check out Creative Asylum. You can pre-subscribe. He's got a bunch of episodes banked and all that good stuff. This show airs Thursdays, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific, streaming live on YouTube and Twitch, podcasted later everywhere for free, always, no ads, no sponsors, no kidding. But if you like the show and you want to get episodes sooner, $1 a month at patreon.com/Protonic Reversal achieves that goal, helps keep the lights on this joint. Deeply, deeply appreciated. Coming up next week, Tim Midget Silkworm, actually. who I barely brought up Silkworm in this episode.
Mr. and
Two
Mrs.
Silkworm.
America, and all the ships at sea.
And they're back, which is crazy. That's awesome. Crazy awesome. Is what
Anyone
that is.
within the
So
sound
really
of my voice.
excited for that conversation. I think it's like his 5th time on or something, but love that dude. Can't wait to hear about that.
I've got
Let's see what else.
50,000
Yeah, there's a bunch of cool stuff coming up as per normal.
Ionize the air.
Just stay tuned. Conan Neutron Secret Friends over a portion of the U.S. that we have not covered this year. Keep an eye out for that.
This microphone turns sound into electricity.
And stay safe out there, right?
Can you hear me now?
Take you later.
Out on Route 128, we're dark and lonely. I got my radio on. Can you hear me now? 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 See in the radio. And that snare drum and that drum roll means we've got a winner. If you're the 5th caller, or any caller at all, welcome to my top 10. I'd like to thank our sponsor. But we haven't got a sponsor. Not if you were the last man on earth. She was prepared to prove it. This one goes out to a special girl. But there is no special girl. It's the end of radio. The last announcer plays the last record. The last what? Leaves the transmitter. Circles the globe in search of a listener. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Is it really broadcasting if there's no one there to receive? It's the end of radio. As we come to the close of our broadcast day, radio. Can you hear me now? This is a test! If this had been a real emergency, hey, hey!